Have you ever just stopped and wondered, how do we learn to be good? It's a huge question, right? One that kind of defines our whole lives. And more often than not, the answer doesn't come from a textbook. It starts with a story.
I mean, really, how do we figure it out? Is it just about following a set of rules or learning from our mistakes? Well, for basically all of human history, we've used one incredibly powerful tool to guide us. And that tool is stories. Everything from the fables we heard as kids to these ancient sacred texts. They all give us these sort of blueprints for how to act. You get your heroes to look up to and your villains to, not be like. So let's dive into a classic story that lays this out perfectly.
Okay, so first up, we've got a super classic setup. A tale of two brothers. We'll call them Liam and Tyler. And we're going to see how their totally different ways of moving through the world affect their little sister, Emma.
You can really boil their whole vibe down to this. Liam, he's driven by empathy. He's thinking about other people. And Tyler, well, he's not a bad guy, not really. He's just distracted, totally wrapped up in his own world. And that self-interest just leads to carelessness. Let's see what that actually looks like. So check out Liam. His kindness is proactive. He's not waiting to be asked for help. He sees his sister struggling with homework. He just steps in. He shares the last cookie. He actually listens when she's talking. See, he's actively looking for little opportunities to be kind, and that builds his foundation of trust and real connection. And then you've got Tyler. He's on a completely different track. He's so deep into his video games that he's basically blind to the world around him. Ignoring requests, grabbing the last cookie, forgetting a birthday, it's not about being evil, it's about thoughtless self-interest. And the result is pretty straightforward, isn't it? Kindness builds connection. Liam is surrounded by love. Selfishness leads to loneliness. Tyler's left with regret. It's a super clear cause and effects lesson. But what happens when the consequences of what we do are totally invisible to us? Well, our next story explores that exact idea. Here, a tiny, seemingly harmless little action creates these massive ripples in a world that the person doesn't even know exists. So let's meet Arfin. He does something we have all probably done. He didn't finish his lunch, and to avoid getting scolded, he tells a little white lie. Seems totally insignificant, right? Just a quick comment to avoid a little bit of trouble. But in this story, oh no, nothing is ever without a consequence. And this is where things get a little wild. See, in another realm entirely, a young devil named Japu is sick. His grandmother's making this magical potion, but she needs one last, very specific ingredient, the sock of a child who has just told a lie. And it just so happens, she's in Arfin's house looking for one. So she overhears Arfin's little fib, snatches his sock, and finishes the potion. Just think about that for a second. Arfin's small, private lie had a direct physical impact in a world he knows nothing about. It's a fantastical way of showing us that our actions, no matter how small they seem, can have effects that stretch way beyond what we can see. So we've seen stories with clear consequences and hidden ones. But what about the internal consequences? What happens when our own attempts to be good just end up making us feel like a failure? Our next story is all about that, about finding compassion within a set of rules. Let's meet Mehnor. The holy month of Ramadan has just ended, and there's a highly recommended practice of fasting for 6 extra days. But because of illness and her cycle, she can't start right away. And all this social pressure is making her feel guilty, like she's already falling short in her faith. And this is the beautiful promise that's causing all of the stress. The teaching says if you fast during Ramadan and then follow it with 6 fasts in the next month, Shawwal, you get a reward as if you fasted for an entire lifetime. The misunderstanding, though, comes down to that word, follows. The logic behind this reward is actually pretty amazing. It's like this divine math. The teaching is that God rewards every good deed tenfold. So, 30 days of Ramadan fasting times 10 becomes 300 days of reward. The 6 extra fasts become 60. You add them up, you get 360, a full year. It's not just an arbitrary rule, it's this beautiful, merciful calculation. Okay, so to understand the flexibility here, we just need 2 key terms. Qaza are the obligatory fasts you might have missed. Think of them like a debt you have to pay back. And nafil are the optional fasts, like these 6, that you do for an extra reward. That distinction is crucial. because this is where the mercy and flexibility come in. People think you have to do the fasts immediately, all in a row. But no, you can fast anytime during the whole month of Shawwal. They can be spread out. And in fact, scholars even advise that it's better to pay back the debt of any missed required fasts first before doing the optional ones. The whole system is designed for ease, not hardship.
And this gets to the true spirit of the rule. It's about mercy. So Menor's inability to fast right away isn't a failure. It's just part of being human, and it's built into a system that understands human limitations. The real goal is connection and devotion, not the burden of some impossible rigid standard. Okay, so we've looked at a simple fable, a fantastical tale, and a pretty deep theological discussion. On the surface, they seem like they're from different planets. But what's the common thread that ties them all together in teaching us how to live a good life?
Well, when you distill them all down, 3 really powerful principles emerge. From the story of the 2 brothers, we get proactive kindness, the idea of actively looking for ways to do good. From Arfin's little lie, we learn about mindful consequences, recognizing that our actions always have an impact. And from Menar's dilemma, we get intentional compassion, the wisdom to apply rules with flexibility and with heart.
So in the end, it doesn't really matter if the guide is a simple fable or a complex text. They're all tools. They're all tools to help us build empathy for others, be more mindful of our own actions, and have some compassion for ourselves. In their own unique ways, they're all about helping us connect. So, as you go about your day, it's worth asking yourself, what story is guiding you? What narrative, big or small, ancient or modern, is shaping your choices and helping you decide for yourself what it really means to be good? Thanks for joining me for this